Chapter 10. Sparks in the Code. The days that followed his first meeting with Professor Anuli felt unlike any Dave had ever known. It was as if someone had taken his world, the campus, the classes, the endless hum of machines, and tilted it just slightly. Enough that all the shadows now seemed alive, and the silence between thoughts carried the weight of voices waiting to be heard. But there was one crucial difference. He wasn't running from it anymore. Professor Anuli didn't meet with him in her public office again. Instead, she led him 2 nights later into a part of the university he had never seen, down a stairwell that required 3 levels of biometric access, through a long hallway where the walls pulsed faintly with fiber optic veins, into a chamber that looked part laboratory, part sanctuary. Screens floated in midair, their code shifting constantly like a living script. In the corners, ritual masks from a dozen African cultures watched in silence. A faint blue mist, released from vents in the ceiling, kept the air cool and strangely charged. "This," Anuli said, "is where we study the thresholds." Ijeoma was already there, her long braids tied back, her tablet projecting a helix across the room. Lines of DNA spiraled outward, but her code made them ripple like water, shimmer like music. Dave paused at the edge just by the door, sensing more than seeing that the air here was different. His skin prickled, the same way it did when the Igwe spoke in his dreams. "Sit," Anuli commanded, pointing to a reclining chair ringed with faintly glowing circuits. Dave obeyed, his heartbeat quickening. "You are not here to banish your dreams," she said. "You are here to learn how to carry them." Ijeoma adjusted her holo projector, her eyes flicking to Dave with curiosity. "Think of it as debugging," she added. "Except the bug is reality leaking through your subconscious." Dave managed a nervous chuckle, comforting. The session began with a series of breathing exercises, guided not by simple words, but by tones. Anuli's voice carried a rhythm, layered with harmonics that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his bones. The mist thickened, and Dave felt the edges of the room dissolve. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't in the chair anymore. He was standing in a familiar plane, starless and infinite, the kind of place where voices echoed even without sound. But unlike before, he didn't panic. His body moved as if tethered to 2 worlds at once. "Good," Anuli's voice drifted in, distant yet steady. "Anchor yourself. You are both here and there." Dave lifted his hands, and for the first time, he noticed faint patterns glowing across his palms, like circuitry drawn in fire. He pressed them together instinctively. Sparks burst outward, then rearranged themselves into lines of code hanging in the air before him. He staggered back, startled. The code pulsed, alive. His thoughts reached for it, and the lines responded, rewriting themselves in real time. He wasn't just dreaming, he was programming reality. When he returned to the chamber, drenched in sweat, Ijeoma was staring at him wide-eyed. "Professor," she whispered, "did you see that?" His neural output spiked beyond simulation range. The system almost crashed trying to map him. Anuli simply folded her arms. As expected, his mind is bridging symbolic and computational architecture, a rare gift. Dave sat up, breathless. What did I just do?" "You wrote," Anuli said simply. "Not on paper, not on a machine, but in the architecture beneath them all. Your dreams are not separate from your code writing. They are its ancestor. Every programmer, every scientist, every thinker faintly borrows from that deep architecture. But you," her gaze sharpened, "you can touch it directly." Ijeoma projected her DNA helix again.
"It's like what I'm doing, but in reverse. I take biology and try to treat it like code, but you take code and treat it like existence."
Dave blinked at her. Something in the way she said it, half wonder, half challenge, made him feel both terrified and alive. The weeks that followed were filled with secret lessons. During the day, Dave sat in classes with Shen, just being another student learning machine learning algorithms and security protocols. But at night, he descended into Anuli's hidden chamber, learning how to hold the dream world without collapsing. He discovered he could summon structures, shapes, even rooms by focusing on intent. Once, lost in concentration, he conjured an obsidian staircase spiraling upward into nothingness. Another time, he formed a sphere of light that hummed like electricity and hovered obediently in his palm. But the most frightening moment came when he accidentally called forth a fragment of the Igwe's voice. Iram Afor, it whispered, coiling through the chamber like smoke. Dave fell backwards, clutching his ears. Anuli's hand shot out, breaking the manifestation with a single gesture. Careful, she said sharply. What you summon does not always belong to you. Learn the difference between creation and invitation. Dave nodded shakily, but inside, a thrill grew. If he could do this much in weeks, what could he become in months or even years? Through it all, Ijeoma was there, sometimes guiding his breath, sometimes feeding data into her helix as his sessions unfolded. She had a sharp tongue and a sharper mind, never hesitating to challenge him. You hesitate too much, she told him one night after he struggled to stabilize a construct. You think like a programmer, writing one careful line at a time. But dreams don't wait for clean syntax. And what if I crash the whole system? Dave shot back, sweat dripping from his forehead. Then you debug. Her smile was quick, teasing. Or you call me. They laughed, and for a moment, the intensity of the chamber faded. But later that night, as Dave lay in bed, her words echoed louder than the Igwe's. Slowly, Dave began to notice bleed-throughs in his waking life. His code assignments in computer science classes became startlingly intuitive. Algorithms he struggled with before seemed to write themselves under his fingertips. Shen, working beside him, complained that Dave was way too lucky with syntax errors. But Dave only smiled, hiding the truth. Even stranger were the moments outside class. Doors that opened just before he reached them. Lights flickering when he passed. Snippets of strangers. Conversations aligning eerily with his thoughts. Reality itself was beginning to respond to him. Anuli warned him again and again. Balance. Do not let your growing strength make you careless. A spark uncontrolled can burn down a city. But Dave couldn't help it. For the first time, the darkness didn't just haunt him, it obeyed him. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Anuli dismissed Ijeoma early. Then she turned to Dave, her face grave. You must understand something. What you are touching is not limitless. It has guardians, architectures older than code, older than language. They will not remain silent if you trespass too far. Dave stiffened. You mean the Igwe? Anuli's eyes narrowed. Perhaps, or something beyond him. Remember, every door you open also opens toward you. Dave swallowed hard, the thrill of his growing power clashing with a cold wave of dread. For the first time since meeting her, he realized Professor Anuli wasn't just guiding him. She was afraid for him. That night, unable to sleep, Dave sat at his desk with his laptop open, a blank terminal screen staring back. He closed his eyes and let his breathing slow, as Anuli had taught him. When he opened them, his fingers moved on their own. Lines of code poured forth, faster than he could think. Except it wasn't just code. His monitor flickered, glitching into shapes, patterns that reminded him of the glowing circuits in his palms. Then it happened. The laptop's surface heated, glowing faintly. Dave yanked his hands away in shock, but the glow didn't stop. It spread upward, forming a hovering glyph of light above the keyboard, humming like the sphere he had conjured in Anuli's chamber. Dave stared, heart hammering. He had done it, crossed the boundary completely. For the first time, he wasn't just shaping reality in dreams. He was reshaping it while awake. He sat frozen, the glyph spinning lazily above his desk. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning, and that sooner or later, someone or something would notice them. Chapter 11. The chilling realization. The campus woke to small alarms and annoyed conversations. Hollow displays flickered blank and then returned. AIs muttered retry messages, and drones that should have been on schedule hiccuped in their flight patterns. Students joked about code gremlins and blamed last night's maintenance window, but Dave felt something deeper in the static, a current that had his name on it. He sat on the stone bench by the fountain, hands clasped tight, staring at the ripples. The night had been a fracture in his memory, an entity that had stepped partway through the corridor, then recoiled into smoke. He had felt its touch, and the scar it left on the wall still burned in the corners of his vision. Dave! Shen slid down on the bench beside him, one hand loosening a breakfast wrap, while the other scrolled through his slate. Davey looked like a man who'd slept, but not slept well. Hair tucked every which way, eyes rimmed in shadow. "You look like hell," Shen said bluntly. "You pulling another all-nighter? Or did you finally decide to haunt the servers full-time?" Dave forced a smirk he didn't mean. "A little of both." Shen watched him in silence, eyes narrowing as if running silent calculations. The pause stretched, not awkward, but deliberate. "Okay," he said at last, lowering his voice. "Let's skip the dance." He leaned in. Across campus, the hollow walls have been glitching. Professor Lin's live sim crashed halfway through a neural projection, and someone's AR overlay glitched and mapped a mobile vendor kiosk onto their cat. Their cat is waddling around with floating price tags and snack ads spinning over its head, glowing menus orbiting it like broken halos. His gaze locked onto his. "This isn't random. A beat." "Did you do something?" The question landed heavier than Shen meant it to. Dave closed his eyes. He'd tried to keep Anuli's warning between them, tried to keep Shen from the edge of what he'd become. But last night had burned the threshold. Silence felt dangerous. Dave began, then stopped. The word felt wrong, too human. "Not people," he said quietly. "Not exactly." Shen studied him. "Then what?" "Things slipping through," Dave whispered. "Like corrupted fragments of reality. Shadows the system can't compile." "A virus," Shen said. "No, a virus lives inside the stack." Dave's fingers pressed against his chest, over Orla's steady warmth. "This doesn't belong to it. When it touches the world, it leaves code behind." Shen hesitated. "You're saying something reached for you?" "It did." Silence stretched. "Show me," Shen said. Dave closed his eyes. He didn't know how he knew, only that the hum beneath his ribs deepened, vibrating like a tuned string. The air around them shimmered, subtle at first, like heat rising from concrete. Then the hollow wall beside the walkway flickered. Symbols bled across it. Not campus data, not ads. Glyphs, sharp, spiraling, half-rendered, the same ones that haunted Dave's dreams. Shen sucked in a breath. The glyphs warped, peeling away from the screen like shadows gaining depth. The light dimmed, sound dampened, as if the world were being wrapped in static. A shape formed, not solid, not digital, a distortion where reality bent inward. It reached. Lines of corrupted code streamed from the air itself, dripping like luminous rain. Dave staggered back. Shen grabbed his arm. "Dave, that's not AR." The shape twitched, then snapped apart like broken glass. The glyphs vanished. The hollow wall rebooted. Students nearby slowed, confused by the momentary blackout. But only Shen had seen the thing. His face had gone pale. "Okay," he breathed. "Okay, I believe you." Around them, AR overlays sputtered in delayed aftershocks, faces briefly smearing into static before stabilizing. The pulse in Dave's chest throbbed once more, warm, alive, as if satisfied. Minutes later, Dave's slate chimed. Office, now. Anuli. Her office smelled of sage and cooling metal, ritual and technology sharing the same breath. Data crystals glowed softly beside shelves of physical books worn smooth with age. Anuli stood at her desk, streams of diagnostics cascading across the air. Ijeoma worked nearby, shaping a DNA helix into looping self-repair patterns with careful fingers. "You're late for the outage," Anuli said without looking up. "You're early for the explanation." "You felt it," Dave said. "I mapped it." She flicked her hand, and a city grid bloomed, red nodes pulsing beneath the old transit lines. "Anomaly clusters matching your signature event. It's spreading." Ijeoma reshaped the helix into a spiraling glyph. "The construct Dave described follows the same topology as my genetic repair loops," she said quietly. "Different systems. Same governing law." Anuli's reflection sharpened in the glass. "That's because you didn't discover a pattern," she said. "You activated a bridge." Dave's throat tightened. Between what? Between layers that were never meant to touch. She met his eyes. Bridges invite crossings. The Orla warmed again. "So it noticed me." "Yes," Anuli said, "and now it will test the connection." Silence thickened. "Reality doesn't glitch," she finished softly. "It responds." Later that night, the corridor outside the research wing shivered. The lights dimmed to a sick, slow blink. The shadows thickened, curling toward the baseboards. Dave's breath came short. Something formed in the darkness. A figure that looked like a man until the edges broke into pixel ashes. It spoke in fragments, Igwe's cadence braided with static. "Child, late, return." The voice grazed his mind like finger ice. Dave reached for Orla and felt a surge run up the chain to his sternum. He remembered Anuli's breathing exercises, the way she taught him to ground mind and muscle. He reached for that calm and shaped it into a barrier, old glyphs from his notebook, forming like living code in front of him. The thing recoiled, screeched, and dissolved into a cloud that stung of ozone. Where it had struck the wall, a line of burning code glowed for an instant before cooling into a dark scar. He collapsed against the corridor wall, palms sticky with the residue of something not quite soot and not quite data. The next morning, he found Shen at the fountain. The bench was cold under his hands. His words came out barely above a whisper. "They know I exist," Dave said. The color drained from Shen's face, and the sight of it left Dave suddenly exposed, as if the truth had stripped away his last layer of protection. "Who's they?" Shen asked. Dave's fingers closed around the Orla at his throat. "The ones who don't want us to remember who we are." Shen drew in a slow breath, steadying himself, then lifted his chin. "Then we learn how to fight what's trying to erase us." The words didn't sound like hope. They sounded like the beginning of a war, one only the two of them could sense rising beneath the surface of the world.